media team was on campus this week, and I thought I'd take the opportunity to take the lead of our media group, Olivia Steier, and bring her onto the huddle, talk a little bit about what she's doing, who she is, and this is going to be very informal, very impromptu. This isn't scripted, so give us some leeway here. But let's just start, Olivia, with who are you, and how long have you been with the company?
Yes. Hi, I'm Olivia Steier. I have been with the company. I started as a consultant 3.5 years ago, and I moved over full time 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, and really was at the bulk of the envisioning of the media vertical, so to speak.
You helped with the development of the strategy.
That's right.
Yeah.
And really today, actually, we had a media presentation for the organization, and it was really amazing to see full circle, where now we have a team of 6. And just 3.5 years ago, I was consulting, and this was a figment of my imagination.
And by the way, the presentation she's talking about was absolutely fantastic. A lot of things that are going to come in the future, things that we can't talk about today, but stuff that, as I talk about media, it really connects with the stories and immersing all of our guests and those that are tuning into view what we're doing. I think we're going to tell stories that connect with football and adjacent spaces and sport in general, but you want to talk a little bit about some of those types
Sure.
of things?
I think we're in a really unique position. I think our innovative content group really sits in between sports and entertainment. And all of our stories, we have this filter where, like our tagline, honor the past, inspire the future, every project that either we conceptualize or partners bring to us, we run through our filter. And really the end of the filter is, does this honor the past? Does this inspire the future in some capacity?
Talk a little bit about some of the things that we've already announced, where they're at
Okay.
in the process.
Sure. With our project Gone Fishing, we are in the early stages of prepping material to go out to market. We're starting to talk to brands, some big brands, around how to incorporate into the show, and really having sort of a longer leeway.
Like advertising or sponsorships.
Correct. Whether it is going to be baked into the show or if they're going to sponsor the program. We see this really as a special that potentially could be a tentpole event for us. So if it's a annual or biannual special, that's really how we see this. And Jimmy Johnson has been incredible to work with so far. We're really, really ecstatic about this one. And I think just given our brand, and he's a Hall of Famer, for us, this was a no-brainer. And for him, he's so passionate about fishing that we felt like this is such a unique opportunity to find different athletes, different entertainers, and sort of marry them on this boat with Jimmy. And it really just be a fun, unique experience for individuals to feel like they're on the boat for an hour.
By the way, you may have seen, I did a welcome speech for the USFL last weekend, and Jimmy was our featured motivational speaker. I mean, I was in goosebumps just listening. Coach is such a phenomenal guy and motivational speaker. The whole group of athletes there, we had 4 teams at the time, were just thrilled. But when you get talent like that, and I think, I've heard you talk a little bit about Hall of Famers and stories and things. Part of what you've been doing here this week with your team is sort of mining some of those gold nuggets or bronze nuggets out of the Hall of Fame. You want to talk a little bit about that and the process for that?
That's right. So I also think part of why, for me anyhow, I initially joined this organization is the access that we get, the access to talent, the access that we get to unique partnerships that we have, and then also the access that we get to IP. And so for us as a team, and we've spent the greater half of this week doing a media retreat, is really dissecting our slate and saying where are there holes, where are there not. And for us, with our partnership with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, it allows us access to go and explore the archives and pull different kinds of nuggets of stories that would otherwise remain dormant.
Exclusive.
Yes, exclusive, and then we get to decide, does this have legs for a series? Is this a feature film? Is this a documentary? And really kind of going through and mining those stories has been really fun, and really where some of the newer projects that we have on our slate and are in the ideation process are coming from the archives that we're really excited about.
So I know I ask Olivia this all the time. I mean, from the start of ideation to creative development, production, getting it into a channel, how long is that process usually? On average, I know it varies.
Well, from start to finish to distribution, typically it's like an 18-month, 2-year process. It takes about a year, 6 months to a year to really develop a project. And then you package it, and then you get the pitch material, and then you get it to market. Of course, there are times where you run into sort of just the perfect timing where everything kind of comes together and it can happen really quickly. And then there are times where projects take a long time to get off the ground, oftentimes several years. So it really can vary. There's no one size fits all per project. And it's really look, content is so subjective. What you like, I might not like. What I like, you might not like. So all you can do when you're in this chair is package the best content that you can, put your best foot forward, and do your best to set it up for success. It doesn't mean it's always going to succeed, but the way that my team operates is we cast a wide net, assuming that it fits our filter, cast a wide net, and assuming you have a lot of lines in the water, eventually one is going to pull.
You catch some fish.
Yeah.
You've gone fishing.
You've gone fishing, full circle, look at that.
So then go back to a show we've talked a lot about, which is the Perfect 10.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about where is that at?
Yeah, so I'm very excited to tell you, Perfect 10, we have some news that we have secured distribution, which we are ecstatic about. I think it's going to be huge for the vertical, media vertical, and huge for the organization. We're not at the place where we can announce it, but soon we will be, and I think everyone will be very pleased.
I think they will as well.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
The team has done some great work on that. You've had a background in media for a long time. Mm-hmm. You look young, but you've really had a lot of experience. When you stack up, and you talked about access to exclusive content, when you stack up, where we're at in the evolution of our media division, how do you see the runway, ahead of us?
So I think, and that's funny that you asked this because we spent the better half of the first day of the retreat talking about this. I think and if I'm being completely candid, I think for the first half of last year, we were kind of throwing a lot of darts in terms of different concepts that we could create and really pursue in the media division. And now we've reached this cross point where I've said, we're creating for football and non-football fans alike. Like, what are we doing trying to tell stories that aren't necessarily the lower hanging fruit, just given who we are and what is accessible to us? I do believe in my heart of hearts, to answer your question, I think in a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, I think we can tell so many stories beyond football. I think it's the right way to do it. I think there still has to have that nexus, but I think we will have the opportunity to really be the only media vertical like us if we do this right. And I think we have to start with some of the stories that make the most sense, just given who we are, what we're building as a destination. And I think, in 5 years, it will look very different. But, right now, the goal is to get some of these projects that we have in development off the ground and really push those into the pitching phase and then ultimately secure distribution. And then, the ones that are in ideation, it's a constant cycle. So it's constantly funneling that cycle and feeding that cycle. So which was part of the media retreat, was coming up with new ideas just to put in phase 1 so we can continue. And it's a lot of multitasking, if you will, because every project's in a different phase. And so kind of knowing where it's at, but that is the way that the process should be.
And being opportunistic along the way.
Of course.
Maybe talk just a moment about, what we always talk about is our ability to cross-pollinate and synergize what we're doing in one of our business verticals, in media, in gaming, being destination-based assets. Last year, we took advantage of the launch of the Hall Fantasy League, our National Fantasy Football League. And by the way, we're going to be talking about that very soon as well for its second season, and it's going to be an expanded and enhanced product. I think our audience is going to absolutely love. But we launched a podcast that was run under you and media, and so that allowed us with homegrown content to also have a media presence.
Right. So for the media division, I think we're in a unique position where, yes, we're focusing on what we just talked about, our slate of content, but really this is a destination business first and foremost, and there are different verticals within, and also gaming is its own vertical. And part of media, we're really in a unique position where we can uplift every vertical, and that's a great example of gaming where media said we will support however we can, and a show for that would make the most sense, where we could tap into the audience weekly and engage on a weekly basis with different plays and really talking fantasy, so people tune in week after week. And so it really lends, I think, media on a national level, also a destination level, on all the different ways in which we can help uplift other verticals and really cross-pollinate.
Right. So that one was a little bit of a softball. Here's one I know that our guests, our shareholders, everybody, and I get asked this question a lot, and this was us being opportunistic. NFTs. So we've launched NFTs, and we've certainly understood how that market is evolving. It is evolving market on a daily basis. We've got a new partnership with I Got It, and that's a joint partnership with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Talk a little bit about where you see NFTs now, given that this falls under your purview, and how that's going to evolve over time.
So we are actually in process of evolving and really strategically planning what comes next with NFTs. We've actually just hired in-house an NFT expert and specialist, and somebody who is
to create NFTs.
To create NFTs. And really our goal is, can we bring everything in-house and really build from soup to nuts the creative all the way down to the marketing? And that is what we're doing currently right now. So we're in sort of the beginning phases, but looking at, are there opportunities where we can tie in NFTs with the village? Are there opportunities where we can tie in NFTs with different events that we're having around, coupled with, are there NFTs that can marry to some of the shows that we're creating or some of the content that we're creating, and really think about creating a much bigger footprint in the space is really how we're thinking about how we're going to move forward.
I love the idea, and this is conceptual still, but we've had conversations about how can NFTs activate things, or how can, if you buy an NFT, does it provide a sense of entitlement? A lifetime pass to events at the village, right? It's a digital collectible, but it's also something that can be transferable and can be sold for value in the event that someday you decide, hey, I've moved to Los Angeles, I can't really get to as many of these events. I mean, that seems to be a direction that is catching on now with NFTs.
Absolutely. There are lots of music festivals that I know that are selling NFT tickets, lifetime passes. And some of these festivals have sort of, look, anyone can go for the rest of their life, right? But I imagine most people will eventually kind of age out of it, right? And so then it gives the opportunity to sell to somebody else. And so there's a constant line of revenue to be had. And there's an interesting there's a restaurant in New York where you have to have an NFT to eat at the restaurant. There's just a new way, and it's constantly evolving and changing, and probably by the time this airs, things will have changed too. It's us keeping up with the times, and I think we have all the tools in place within our team to be able to do so. I'm really excited.
I was telling you, I had a meeting with the head of non-fungible tokens at the NFL just this week. And he was telling me, a great guy, and he was telling me that there are categories of buyers for these digital collectibles, and some people just want to have them so that they're a fan of a team, they're a fan of a person, and they want to collect it just like they would a Super Bowl ticket or something like that. There's also individuals that they see that there's value in these, they can appreciate it. you were talking earlier today about the more, and it's a little bit what you just said, the more that it has activation around it. It's not just a static image, it has utility, thank you. That value can increase over time. I mean, I think that's where you're seeing the high potential.
I do. I think utility has proven to be everything in the success of NFTs. And it's also the kind of utility. Is it a one and done utility, or is it something that constantly, has value? And so, for instance, an example of that is it a 1-year pass where you can go to a destination, once a year for free, versus is it a lunch with someone that once that's done, then it's no longer really attached to the NFT. So finding ways to get creative on what those utilities look like, and I really believe the destination holds the key to so many of those, and it's us really finding how to piece them together with future NFTs.
And I'm not just sitting here with a hat on because I want to look cool. I was just out walking the construction site. It is really phenomenal. We walked Play Action Plaza today. Water feature is going to be iconic. Certainly the rides, the red zone and the forward pass. By the way, the forward pass is going to be the longest forward pass you get to be a part of, the longest forward pass in the history of professional football, or football anywhere.
Wow.
Over 600 feet. You're going to
wow.
So pretty incredible. But just for a moment, you talked about the connectivity, and you've said it a couple times, to the destination.
Mm-hmm.
Give some examples of that. What does that look like in the context of what you're doing?
So on a high level, I think there are two real arenas within this organization. One is a local level, and one is a national, international level. I think we have the ability, and right now we're really focused on the awareness, so building that national, international presence. But I think we have the ability to play in both arenas. And I think, for instance, if we have events coming down the pipeline that we're hosting here at the Village, there's no reason that media can't put our heads together and say, how can we amplify this event even more? How can we create content around some of these live events that we're having? And so I think that's an example with how we would play in both arenas.
Right. Yeah, it's a great example. And I also think you're thinking about things like even where it's not our production. USFL, of course, has held their playoffs and their championship is this coming Sunday night. The exposure that those kinds of events get for both the Village and the company just can't be replaced. And so your team working with those networks or whoever's doing that coverage,
right,
giving them, the little nuggets that get the message out there in a clear and concise manner is going to be increasingly important.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
So we're running out of time, but I wanted to give you just a couple more minutes to say,
sure,
if the takeaway from what you're doing as one of the business leaders of a key vertical for us as a company, the message to the audience is what at this point in time in the evolution of media?
The message is that we are dedicated to creating premium content to this organization on a local level and on a national, international level. And I think we have the team to get us there. And I think we have the slate that will deliver. And we are so thrilled to see some of these projects come into fruition, because really we've been working the better half of the last 3.5 years, but really 2 of those were COVID. So to be where we are today, I know it's only going to get better and better. And I am so thrilled for the opportunity and thrilled to be able to share with you every step of the way as new exciting announcements come to fruition and projects come to life.
Yeah, and there's a lot out there after
There's
today's presentation. I think everybody's going to be really excited to see and hear those. And I just wanted to get one point in when you talk about international. I found this fascinating. I was coming out of my office a couple of weeks ago, and one of our key team members stopped me and said, "You're not going to believe this, but we just got a message from one of our former team members that was traveling in Spain." And they said they were watching World Chase Tag, which you helped produce last year during each round.
Yes.
So if people are wondering, what does she mean by international? That's a great example. I'm not sure people understood that you and our team helped produce that, and it was
Correct.
the leading show on ESPN that weekend.
It sure was. That's right. It
It
was.
was incredible.
We hosted the U.S. Championship here on our campus during the Tri-Mid League, and it was the #1 show for Ocho that weekend. And it was so fun to do. We did it with our partners at Tupelo Honey, and you know, everyone can relate to the game of tag. So we brought the game of tag to Canton, Akron, and we were so excited to do it. And I think that's a great example of, yes, we're focused on football-centric projects, right? And it makes sense who we are. But sometimes opportunities come along the way, and you can't pass them up if it makes sense. And for that one, it did, and it was a fun opportunity to integrate something unique into the big weekend that we had last August.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And you say everybody loves to play tag. I could never play tag the way they play tag.
Oh,
It
well,
was
yeah.
unbelievable. The athletic
I tried to
ability.
run the course and I fell like within 2 seconds.
You know, I gotta say, I actually like being on this side of the chair versus that side of the chair and putting
This is
someone
the hot
else in the hot seat.
Yeah.
You did absolutely fantastic. I want to just say thank you to everybody. Hopefully you're seeing the great work that Olivia is doing and her team. She's got a phenomenal team. The team is growing, the content is growing, and I think you're going to see things that are really going to be spectacular coming out of your division for our company. Olivia Steier, Executive Vice President of Hall of Fame Village Media. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.